And what's happening, everyone? Welcome on into the Check Your Brain podcast on this crazy week we've got. We came off of last week with so many celebrity deaths, and now we're talking about things that matter this week, and that is what is happening down in the Queen City, just about 3.5 hours to the south of me in Cincinnati, Ohio. We'll get to all that, but first, let me get to my guest here, and that is Courtney Allen. She was on my podcast just a couple of months ago, and we had a great chat about the MAGA movement, about the what we are going to see from the Trump 2 administration, and of course, maybe we could talk a little bit about that a little later on of what has happened in the last 6 months. But first of all, I want to share here this page. This is Courtney's. Where you can find the Patriot Strong podcast. She's oh yeah, she was on back. Oh, I found my link. Sorry about that. I got to find where yours is. But yeah, you were on back in I think February, and go check it out wherever you get your
Mhm.
podcast, Patriot Strong. Courtney, thank you for doing the podcast once again.
No, of course. Thank you so much for reaching out. And I'm so glad that we're able to connect again. I think right now is a very important time to connect. There's so much going on, not only in Cincinnati. I'm sure all of your listeners, all of my listeners have seen, but like within the entire country, but especially within Cincinnati, which I think this is what the main topic of our conversation is going to be about.
Yes, it is. And let me, we'll set it up here with the video of what happened. And then I would like you to talk about the little bit of the backstory as to what's happened here. So I'm going to play the video of what we see. No matter what anyone says about something's edited, this is taken out of context. This is just what has gone viral in the last
Right.
couple of days. And we'll get a little bit of an update that we saw as of this afternoon here on Monday, the 28th.
Oh! 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 They did it! They did it! They did it! They did it! Oh! 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 They did it! Oh,
So, from what I understand, this all occurred at 4th and Elm, which is just south of the Over the Rhine district, which I've been to many a times. Had a good time, but
Right.
usually in the daytime. Courtney, talk about what this was, talk about the music festival, and what may or may not have led up to this.
So, I've not seen the entire content of the entire event from beginning to end. I don't know any prior conversations that took place. I've only seen the videos that I presume you have seen as well. I know that there was a music festival going on. I know that there was a Reds game going on. There were a couple other big events going on in the city at this time. But like you just played, I've only seen these little clips of what seemed to be random people, a random couple being attacked. I don't know. Um, I was sent this information, I think either Friday or Saturday morning. I'm not entirely sure. I think Saturday morning, maybe. I think this took place around 4 a.m. Saturday morning. I was sent this, and they're like, hey, have you seen this? Like, what do you think? What's going on? And then the um, uh, mayor candidate that is running in like November's candidacy, Corey Bowman, like he's posted all of these things. For those that are not familiar, Corey Bowman is JD Vance's Vice President JD Vance's little brother. He's running for mayor of Cincinnati, and he was posting all of this. He's like, "Hey, what's going on? Why are there no cops here? Why is nobody intervening? Why is everybody just standing around and recording all of these incidents, all of these like presumably innocent people that are being attacked for no reason?" Again, I don't know if it's no reason. I don't know what was said. I don't know what was done besides what you just showed on your video clip. But there really hasn't been any news coverage, or there wasn't, let me rewind. There wasn't any news coverage of this event, like on any mainstream media, um, any legacy media on like social media, besides what we the people had, like made viral. Um, and then I think Bernie Marino, who's in Ohio, Vivek Ramaswamy, who's in Ohio, and it went to Elon Musk. It went to Alex Jones, who posted it on Infowars. And then, like I said earlier, Vice President J.D. Vance spoke about it earlier today during a press conference. And it took, what was it, 72 hours, I guess, before the actual mayor, Aftab, even released some kind of statement on what was going on, which is absurd to me. Like, I don't understand how you could be completely silent on the violence going on in your city. If you go to his like campaign, or not campaign, if you go to his Facebook page, like he praises the music festival that was going on, and the inductees, and like the whatever Hall of Fame that was going on. Why wouldn't you make this kind of the main happenstance, I guess? And
Yeah,
I know that you just put up all these things. There's so many things coming out now. Um, statements from the police chief. There are statements from, like I just said, the actual mayor of Cincinnati, Aftab, that was completely silent on this entire thing over the entire weekend. And the timing of his statement coming out like minutes after JD Vance released his statement, I don't know. It's just kind of
yeah.
suspicious to me.
And I posted this over the weekend because I saw that Dr. Amy Acton, the abortionist, I mean, the white lab coat lady who's running for governor, that we saw on TV next to Mike DeWine 5 years ago, she posted a bunch of pictures. She attended the festival. She's like, incredible energy last night at the Cincy
Right.
Music Fest, a beloved event that has been bringing folks together since 1962. It was great meeting so many Cincinnatians who are ready to turn the state around. And I'm like, oh, anything else happened from that, Amy? You want to discuss anything else? Because this was at this point we had known some videos coming out. But I will say though, it's funny you mentioned about Bowman and Vance, is that it took someone like J.D. Vance a couple of years ago, about 2.5 years ago now, when there was a train derailment that occurred in East Palestine, Ohio. And if it wasn't for J.D., and if it wasn't for people, the Benny Johnsons, and even all the way up to Donald Trump Jr., and then eventually Donald Trump, who at the time was in the early stages of running for president, which I believe the East Palestine thing was one of the early signs of, wait a second, the momentum is back here for Trump, because he went over there and he met with people before Pete Buttigieg, who was the transportation secretary, put his little hard hat on. He wouldn't have gone. Instead, he was in New York doing some kind of speech talking about how Robert Moses designed bridges to be very low so buses of black people weren't able to go to Long Island. I'm like, that's more important right now. Talking about something that is in many ways mythological. A lot of people don't think that this is what actually happened. And it wasn't about racism, it was about classism. But anyways, it took him getting bodied by Trump to actually go to East Palestine and figure it out. So we are now living in an age to finally hold politicians' feet to the fire by saying, hey, look, here's something you're not talking about that's happening in your own city. What's it going to take? And it's about time, whether it's Vivek, whether it's JD Vance, all the way up to Elon Musk talking about something that 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago would have just been, hey, remember that? Oh, you're just imagining things. Those are cheap fakes. Those are whatever you want to call that. That didn't happen. You're just misremembering things.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And it's the fact that I think even over the weekend that the actual mayor, like the current mayor, Aftab, I'm not entirely sure how to say his last name, so I'm not going to try. But you guys can look it up. He didn't mention anything of this at all. There were no police there. If you listen to the current police chiefs, hold on one second. I will try and bring it up. Her statement, she said that it didn't seem like I'm paraphrasing, it didn't seem like a big deal to them. They only had one call in this entire event. And that's whenever Corey Bowman put out his own statement. Let me try and bring it. I don't want to misquote him at all. He's a great person.
You've had him on your podcast too, right?
I have, yes, sir.
Very nice. Good cheap plug there. By the way, as you're finding that, I want to play this came out sometime this afternoon that 5 people have been charged in the attack. I'm going to play this clip here for us.
At this time, we have victims and suspects identified, and we have charged 5 people in this offense. I'm not going to release that information to you. I will say, if individuals were down there and participated in this event, it would be in their best interest to come turn themselves in at one of our police districts. We have 5 we have charged and anticipate more. Let me be clear. Anyone who put their hands on another individual during this incident in an attempt to cause harm will face consequences. I don't care which side of the incident or the fight they were on. If they place their hands on somebody in an attempt to cause harm, that is unacceptable. This is still an open investigation, and all potential charges are being investigated for everyone involved. All investigative tools and techniques are on the table, including, were some of these individuals overserved at some local establishments? It is clear to us that alcohol played a significant part in this incident.
Oh, shit! Oh! Whoa! Whoa!
And it's just disturbing. It's you can't look away from a lot of this stuff because it's out there. Unfortunately, this is how social media is. It's a snuff film almost every day. If you're not getting porn, you're getting a snuff film as soon as you wake up nowadays, and it's hard to turn that off. But which I can't even imagine what it's like to be a parent of young kids having to deal with that. But it's a reality we're dealing with right now. I don't know about talking about alcohol or anything if that plays a role. Of course, it's going to play a role in some way. But it, just seeing those images and the woman who's down. I think
Right.
Vivek had a statement that he had talked to somebody, talked to her or personally or somebody
Yes.
involved. But it just this is going on way too often, and I think a lot of people, because of the racial angles, have been afraid to talk about this. But this is finally something that we're seeing out in the open, and I don't like where we're going to go from here, whether regardless if it gets addressed or not.
And I think that is like the big elephant in the room. A lot of people are afraid to speak about that because it is a racial thing, and they're afraid to say like, "Hey, if roles would have been reversed, all right, if roles would have been reversed, it would have been on every newspaper, on every like news station the next morning." People can get offended if they want to. That's the cold hard fact. Like, I've been in arguments on everything that I posted about this. Like, oh, they deserved it. If this is what happened, they were doing God's work. Like, all of these things, like absurd comments. But you mentioned Vivek, and I do have his post pulled up here. It is the lady that was in the black dress with the flowers. I believe her name was Holly. Vivek said, "I spoke to Holly earlier today, the woman tragically assaulted in the Cincinnati events this weekend. She is a single working mom who went to a friend's birthday party. It's unconscionable that there were no police present in the area of Cincinnati on Friday night, or even an ambulance to take her to the hospital. Hardworking Americans should not have to worry about their safety when they have a good time out in our cities." Holly said not a single local or state official had yet reached out to her as of this afternoon, whenever he posted this. Other than one police detective, leftists like to lecture about systematic injustice, while thugs turn our cities into war zones. I'm done with their excuses. As governor, I'll make sure they're behind bars, not running wild. Our cops will have the green light to restore order, no apologies. Holly appreciates the kind words and prayers from patriots across the country and hopes that the publicity around her story ensures that local and state leaders clean up their failing cities. We hope to visit Holly as soon as she recovers.
It's it's what we've been dealing with crime, especially in the last 5 years, because you're seeing a lot of leftists say, well, crime was way more violent back in the, between the 60s and the 90s. And I'm like, well, that's a completely different subject that you also don't want to get into about post-Civil Rights Act
Right.
and the policing and how after March 3rd, 1991, when the Rodney King video was shown to everybody, and then the case 92 and the LA riots, that cops aren't really able to do their job anymore. However, we do live in the age of the body camera. And there was a story I covered on my Patreon podcast last week that was from Jacksonville in February, where we only got the video of the guy in the car saying, like, I didn't do anything, my hands, and he's getting punched, and they break the window on the police officer. The police officer breaks the window and pulls him out. And then when you get the whole body cam footage, you say, he slammed the door on the cops, that he refused. He said his window was locked. He wouldn't comply. They asked him dozens of times that you're being arrested now because you're not complying. You're resisting, all this kind of stuff. And body cam has really saved a lot of police departments as far as these big lawsuits go, when you have Ben Crump and others who are grifting and ambulance chasing. However, when it comes to a lot of the crime in these cities, you're getting to a point where it's probably happening way more often. They're just not reporting the statistics. I saw in Baltimore, they're like, crime is down 65%. Well, yeah, of course it's going to be down if you're not reporting it properly.
And and that's something I'm glad that you brought that up. There were two local news stations, like the night that this all happened, or like the next morning, whenever it all went viral. Two local news stations, two reporters specifically, that said they're not allowed to report or to show the video because of copyright laws. So they weren't going to report on it because they didn't own the footage that was being shown, and because their parent company wouldn't allow it. I feel like maybe that's not the whole truth. I feel like they were trying to coddle the ones that were involved until more was said, or more was stated, or more was released. I don't know. I just feel like if roles had been reversed, it would have been a much bigger deal way sooner than it was with this incident.
Now, you're from the Cincinnati area. Talk a little bit about you could talk about the demographics and kind of the layout of the city, because from when I've been going through Cincinnati for over 30 years now, and I remember how there was old Riverfront Stadium back in the day. I went there a couple of times, walked on the field, and since then it's been demolished. You have the two new stadiums, one of which it was the home of, it was, housed the jazz festival or the music festival over the weekend. But they've had that new district. I think it's called the Banks,
The banks, yeah.
and it's really cool, but it's heavily policed in a lot of ways, so you're not seeing a lot of riffraff. However, when you go into certain parts, when you go up the hill from the Ohio River, it's a nice place during the daytime. You even have right off in that area of Fourth and Elm of rainbow crosswalks for the Pride Month and everything. But talk a little more about Cincinnati, because it's had a bit of a crime problem off and on, especially since the 1990s.
No, it absolutely has. I'm trying to pull up. I'm not ignoring you. I don't mean to like not acknowledge your audience or my audience. I had shared a few different videos um with you, or not with you, with my audience, about all of this and the crime rates that Cincinnati has experienced. Hold on one second. I'm trying to find it really fast. So This is my research. What I have found: Cincinnati ranks as the 14th overall crime rate among the 100 most populous cities in the United States. This is why we never go like. This is my post. This is why my husband and I never go downtown. The people doing these crimes, these types of crimes, the hate crimes, because that's what it is. Like, let's all just call it out for what it is. Stop being so afraid to offend people. Call it like it is. They're never held accountable. The current Democratic mayor um, holds nobody accountable for their actions, and that's been seen over like the last X amount of years. There was a jazz festival, a Reds game, and I think two other events that they tried to throw into all of this to say, like, hey, it was a really crowded timeline and downtown. There weren't police there. Why? I have no idea. Uh, Also, for anybody listening, you guys should look up Cincinnati and drones. I guess they were going to try and save money by sending drones to emergency sites. I don't know what a drone is going to do, but that's Cincinnati government for you, I guess.
I've heard this, by the way, and I think this is probably going to be a situation going forward of having drones at traffic stops
Right.
as a safer thing, as a safer alternative. So they would pull them over instead of having a cop there or two cops. I don't know. It's experimental. I don't know how well it's going to work. But what all of this, everything we're talking about, is just a band-aid over a real problem,
Exactly.
a cultural problem. And you could put as many craft beer bars. Findlay Market's great. Rheingeist is a cool place to hang out, and you play cornhole, hang out on the roof. But if you're not addressing some of the deeper rooted problems in the community, then it's going to continue, and you're going to see more what they called white flight back in the 60s, the 50s and the 60s. White people
Mhm.
started moving out because that certain crimes were not being policed properly, and there was I'm going to say, I'm not speaking for you, but it was more of an ethnic cleansing, which is why there was the creation of suburbs and exurbs and more people heading out to the countryside. Then with what happened in 2020, which, by the way, Mike DeWine, our governor, seemed to have been more mad that young, healthy people were not wearing masks while outside playing cornhole in May and June of 2020 than he was about Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati getting absolutely destroyed by the BLM riots, the summer of George Floyd riots.
Mhm.
And
Right.
he seemed to be more upset that people weren't social distancing enough at an outdoor bar. And I'm going, oh, I see where your priorities lie. Because he's afraid to discuss the real problem. And so is the mayors of Cleveland, Columbus, and of course, Cincinnati. Now, luckily, it seems like we're seeing a little bit of a change in the GOP, that it's not the typical neocon variety that we have been seeing for several decades here in Ohio. But I we're not addressing the real problem, and it just seems that everyone's kind of looking the other way and pretending it's not happening.
No, and I agree with you. I feel like so many people, and like the reason they're doing this is because so many people are afraid to be offensive. Like they're not going to be politically correct if they call it like they see it, like if they call it like it is. There are a lot of people that will and that can and that do, but overall, like we can't offend the ones that are doing these. Like you've seen the videos, I've seen the videos of all of the I'm not sure where it was in the city. There was like a group of white people that were like bowing on their knees, like praying for forgiveness, asking for forgiveness for like what their people had done. I'm like, bro, like you realize there were slaves before African Americans in America. I don't want to go, I don't know like where you're going with this. I don't want to like get you off on any
Oh,
what.
trust me. It's with my podcast. I've been canceled before. Yeah, but look, you're right when it comes to that of the genuflecting for this new age
Right.
egalitarianism. And what it is it's typical white guilt. It's why you don't have the team is known as the Cleveland Indians or the Washington Redskins anymore, because everyone's afraid of that. We are in a new era now, it seems, hopefully, we are in a new era where people are not afraid of being canceled just for stating facts, for talking about crime statistics or per capita. And
Right.
you're seeing that a little bit more often than you would have, say, 6 years ago in 2019. That Alex Jones, that Milo, that other people were getting thrown off of social media. They were getting debanked, deplatformed because you were stating what?
Facts.
No reason, nothing wrong. Uh, but now it seems like we are entering this, or we have entered this new era where we can discuss these things without people going, "Well, you're only saying this because you're a racist." It means the word means nothing anymore. You would call anybody who you disagree with a racist. Over the weekend, they're saying that if you that American Eagle has Sydney Sweeney doing ads for them because and saying that this is typical Nazi coded propaganda. It's like you've been calling people you disagree with Nazis and things and products you disagree with Nazis for 10, 15 years. That word has lost its meaning now. Can we actually be adults and have a high IQ discussion about this stuff? Or are we just going to name call the entire time? And whenever I hear people trying to do, well, you can't bring it up because you're racist, or the other people with this whole Cincinnati issues, they say, well, the white guy slapped first, so he FAFO'd. And I'm going, well, no, the video that I saw is he's being surrounded and threatened at that
Right.
point. That what else is he supposed to do if that's the case? So we're just going to play semantics games saying that he deserved it, he FAFO'd, and that's what he gets, and no one should be charged. Because I have a feeling that's what the defense that they're going to try for in this case.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. I've seen all the videos and I've read all of the like, oh, he said this or he said that. Like, you really expect me to believe, or like any of you, not you, not our audiences, but those that are on the defense of all of this, you really think that we're going to believe like this couple just walked up to like a street crossing sign and they said nothing, or like they weren't taunted or anyway, and they're like, hey, you, uh, and like then that's whenever everything happened. Like, I don't think so. At like there had to have been something that led up to whatever to start this quarrel. Again, I don't know. I heard earlier like on our local radio station that the Cincinnati like city are like they're going to release the cameras from all the streets like around I guess 4th and Elm that were capturing all of this like in live time. I don't know if it's gonna be public or if it's like gonna be like for police officers like exclusively. But you can't tell me that these like white couples came up and started a fight out of nowhere. I don't believe that. Like maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I just don't think that's a thing that happens.
No, and it's making people just like with the body cams, just like with TikTok, that people are looking at this. White people are going to say that I'm not going to go downtown anymore. That I'm
Right.
I'm a huge Reds fan, been a fan, watched the 90 and the 75, 76 World Series and the Big Red Machine. Yeah, I'm not going to go downtown anymore. I'll watch them on TV. And it's causing a lot of this where the only people you are getting downtown, they go to the Heritage Bank Arena to go see a concert, and then they go right back in their car and they leave. They
Right.
go home. They're not hanging out downtown. And in the 90s, you were seeing this revitalization in urban cities of bringing sports teams and bringing events back into downtown and putting high-rise apartments and condos and hey, we're doing all this. Isn't this great? And then when you're not policing it properly, you're seeing these towns. I'll just say it turns into a shithole because I've been going to Columbus. I go probably 10 times a year for softball tournaments or just for fun. And Columbus 15 years ago was a great city. It was people that were uh, going to Ohio State. They graduated and they're like, you know what? I like this town. I want to stay here and I want to fix it. And then now you go over there. If you're not seeing literal communist propaganda that's up on street corners, it's you're stepping over homeless, you're stepping over tweaking junkies on the street
Literally.
because they allow it. It's a sanctuary city. So, yeah, have yourselves a pisser out there. Cleveland's no better. Graffiti is everywhere. Businesses that were had cinder blocks thrown through the windows in 2020, many of them did not reopen. So what fills that gap? Either nothing or a chain restaurant. So there goes your culture. Your culture's gone. And then now Cincinnati, a town that I like going to some of the breweries. I like some of the food places. Yeah, I stay in Covington when I'm usually there. It's kind of a cool little town, yuppie town. But it's a lot of this is just making people say it's not worth it to go to a city anymore. It's you may as well just go camping. You go to Lake Norman, or if you're in our area, maybe you're going out towards Hocking Hills or somewhere around where you're not going to be in fear for your life. And of course, I know a lot of liberals will say, "Well, that was just one only example. I walk around." It's that typical the low IQ comment where I've never been harassed in a city, so therefore it doesn't exist. Yeah, just because it doesn't exist for you doesn't mean it's not happening.
And that's a huge thing and something that um not whenever I spoke to him, but I know that he's posted about this before. All the business people that are in downtown Cincy, like they don't want to invest anymore. Like there's so much bad infrastructure in downtown Cincinnati because of the population that is on the streets, that is, um I don't like running the streets of everyday life. Like not running the streets. Like it's not like a freaking mob. I mean, I don't know. And maybe it is. My husband and I, we avoid downtown at all costs. Would we love to go watch the Bengals? Yeah. Would we love to go to a Reds game? Yes. Would we love to go see some of the exhibits at the museum center? Of course. Will we? No. Not a chance because of all the things that we've seen on the news, on mainstream media that happen. And is anything being done to take care of it? No, there's not. And that like that's just it. That's just the facts.
And
There's
so
not
people are
anything being
crossing the
done
river
at
now
all.
because there's an opportunity for a lot of people going up into whether it's, well, Newport's had their share of issues as well. But when you go to Covington, you go a little bit further south, between the river and Florence and everything. You're seeing a lot of the Cincinnatians who grew up there, who maybe work there. Well, we live in an age where a lot of jobs you don't need to go into the office anymore, or at least not
Right.
5 days a week. I know some places are, but if you have the opportunity to work from home and you can live an hour outside the city and not have to deal with this, then I think people are kind of leaning towards that. And it's not helpful for a downtown area that supposedly wants to be vibrant and bring all these different cultures. Well, what's going to happen? The people, let's be honest, a lot of people who have money are going to say, I'm going to spend it elsewhere. We're going to go on vacation instead of going into the city and risking being harassed in a downtown area. It sucks because I like Cincinnati. I like what it has. I like the old culture, the German culture. I like the just the geography of the area. That when you're going in from Covington
Yeah.
and heading down on I-75 and 71 into towards Cincinnati, when you're crossing back over into Ohio, it's one of the great views that you're going to see in any city. Excellent skyline coming down. It's such a cool little opportunity of a town, and you're wasting that by not properly policing these areas. And if you're especially a Democrat mayor, you're ignoring it until you're forced 72 hours
Literally.
later to make a statement about it.
Absolutely, literally. And that's why, my husband and I, while we were at work, we were like going through the demographics, going through Republican versus Democrat. And oddly enough, it surprised us both. The site that we looked at, it said within the last 8 years, the last two, six, whatever elections, that Cincinnati is leaning more now towards Republican, that they're leaning now more towards like maybe not liberal, not Republican, but like in the middle. And that's how they're trying to decide. Cincinnati hasn't had a Republican candidate running for mayor in decades, like 50 years or something ridiculous like that. And
Goodness.
that's why I'm so excited that Corey Bowman is finally like I don't know, like he's a pastor, he owns his own restaurant. He is finally like he's throwing his hat into the game. He wants to make a change for Cincinnati. He lives in Cincinnati. He has children. Like, hey, it's not okay that like I don't feel safe to take my family to downtown. This is a city that I love. I think it's the best city in the world, but I think there needs to be change here. So again, to my audience watching, Tony, to your audience watching, if anybody is in the Cincinnati city limits, we are literally 100 days from today of voting for the next mayor of Cincinnati. Please, Corey Bowman, flip the natty. He is going to have great things for Cincinnati, great plans for Cincinnati, a great reform that we've seen is much needed after like this weekend's events. It makes me so sick to my stomach to think that anybody in Cincinnati could still vote for AFTAB again after this weekend's events.
So I'm looking here for folks only listening right now. I pulled up it's Wikipedia, but it's still a good source in some ways, of the list of mayors of Cincinnati. And you go all the way back to 1971, which is just a brief interim period, but basically since the beginning of the 70s, you have had nothing but either independent or Democrat mayors.
Right.
And I just keep thinking about these big cities. Even in red states, the big cities are still blue. What's it going to take? I mean, how many failures will we see for people to wake up in these cities to say that they're not? Maybe we should try something different. Maybe we should maybe try that other guy. Instead, it's like, no, he's racist or he's this and that. That you got to continue going Democrat. And in fact, they're even going further Democrat with what we're seeing in Minneapolis with this Omar Fatah and Zoran Mamdani in New York City. Instead of saying, guys, we've been doing it this way for over half a century. It's not improving. Quality of life is not improving in this town. Can we try something different, for heaven's sake?
And I think that's where people are too afraid to. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know the voting population in all of these cities, like the major cities, but like we have 3 in Ohio: Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati. And it seems like they control a lot. Like, we're still a red state, but we're still heavily influenced by all these blue cities, all these Democratic ran cities. But if you look at the success rates of all of these cities, it's next to nothing.
Yeah.
And like, it doesn't take a scientist to understand why. Like, hey, maybe this isn't working. Like, what is it? The old saying, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Like, your city is failing. The crime rates are horrible. Cincinnati, I think I said earlier, is like the 14th like most populous, dangerous city in the United States. I could have got that wrong, so don't like quote me. But it's not working. So the only thing there is to do is to change. Why are you afraid of change?
Oh, they're afraid because it's a brainwashing thing of that R equals racist next to a name, and that here's somebody who has here's a young minority mayor like we have in Cleveland. We have a guy, I actually went to high school with him, and he's one of these idealistic millennials who've come in there and says, I have great ideas what we could do to downtown. It's gotten worse since he's been mayor. He's done nothing, but it's one of those, I felt guilty about it because he's a young black man. I got to do it. And it's like you're seeing this pop up. And again, it's not, when you think of blue state, red state, it's such a misnomer because a couple of years ago, I was driving through, go over to Cooperstown, New York, or the Baseball Hall of Fame, and you start driving in any other place in New York besides a big city, and you would think you're in rural Alabama. It is MAGA country, it's Trump country, it's guns, and it's like this in every red state, or even in blues, what are considered blue states, because the big cities end up taking all the votes, and it's honestly it's what's going on right now, that it's calling something like, oh well, the crime rates in this red state, yeah, but the major cities are still blue. They're governed by it's blue city mayors and blue city politics. And the worst part is when people actually leave the city, then they go somewhere else, yet they keep their voting patterns. It's like, no. When you leave California, You don't leave. You
Don't
leave
bring
your
it here.
California voting behind. You left there for a reason. Instead, you're bringing it to Austin, Texas, and you're trying to make Texas blue. Not happening.
I think really just people need a wake up call. Like, hey, this hasn't worked for you for the last 20, 30, 40 years. Like, again, it's not it's not rocket science. Like, I don't understand why people can't make the connection, why they can't see, like, hey, this isn't working. Maybe we should try this. And the fact that there are so many people out there that are, and I'm sure it happens with the right too, but we're speaking about like blue led cities. Like, hey, our city has been blue for X amount of years. It's only been downtrending. Why can't we try something that's opposite of what we've done? Maybe it could help. And they only disagree with that because it is the opposing political, like political view. You know what I
It's
mean?
sports. It's you're a fan of the Yankees and you hate the Red Sox, and you find out one of the players on the Red Sox could come to the Yankees, and you're like, no, I don't want that guy. Screw him. He played on it's such a team sport, and it shouldn't be. And I felt like we were trying to get to a point where it didn't really matter. I mean, you take a look in Donald Trump's administration right now. There's former Democrats there. In fact, Trump
Yeah, of
is a
course.
former Democrat. Joe Rogan, who endorsed him, is basically a 90s liberal.
Yes.
RFK Jr. is a 90s liberal.
Yes.
Tulsi Gabbard is a 2000s liberal. And it almost doesn't, it shouldn't matter the political party. But for whatever reason on the Democrat side, they will not even entertain somebody who's Republican.
And you know what? It has nothing to do with this right now, but kind of. I was speaking with a family member earlier. We're not close anymore. We don't see each other anymore. I'm doing an event in Ohio in a few weeks and like in a couple months. It is a MAHA event, Make America Healthy Again event. So, like, not really political, just like, hey, let's do a healthy thing. I just got my certification with a holistic health practitioner, and this family member said, oh, I wanted to see you speak. I wanted to support you, but I don't really feel comfortable going to a MAHA event or any kind of event that's tied to RFK Jr.
Yeah, isn't that
Like,
amazing?
nah, okay.
It's funny because that political association. I mean, here's the thing. Uh, Conservatism or just right wing politics have had so many different little in groups. You've had the MAGA group, you have neocons, you have more like mainstream type of Charlie Kirk voter people, then you have Ben Shapiro, like more Zionist types. And there's so many different factions, yet for whatever reason, it's kind of come together and people have largely agreed. In fact, I just talked about it on my podcast yesterday that Republican favorability has reached its highest point since 2004. And Democrat favorability is in the toilet right now, and they got to figure out something. It's not going to take more Zoomers lifting weights or Eric Swalwell on a bench press. It's going to be a little bit more that they have to try to court some
Mhm.
of these new voters because the woke stuff really isn't working out. Yet they just can't seem to get away from their old ways. Now, I'm not trying to give them pointers, but as far as being American, that we have to live around these people, and some of them are our own family members that we see at Christmas and Thanksgiving, that it's terrible that we are fracturing as a country, as a society based on politics. Yeah, I have liberals in my family. I still talk to them. I have liberal friends. I think it's baked into the cake though that it's like, oh, Tony's more right wing, whatever.
Right.
Um, but you make things work, and there's a lot of families that don't have that luxury, and that you're splitting apart. Another thing I talked about was about around this time a year ago when Kamala Harris picked Tim Walz as her running mate, and there were so many of these millennial like girls our age who said, Tim Walz is my new dad because my father was lost to Rush Limbaugh in the 90s
Oh.
and talk radio and Fox News. And I'm going, are you really that superficial? Are you that low IQ that you're identifying with a communist politician because he agrees with your politics a little bit more than dad did, that you're okay throwing away family because of politics? And apparently they are. And that's terrible that you have people that don't want to come to your own event just because of it's not even, it shouldn't even be health shouldn't be political, but apparently
I
it is.
I know, and that was my point. I didn't even respond at first to this person. I'm like, you know, I figured that would be the response. So good luck. Like I'll see you when I see you, I guess. Um but yeah, like you said, like I don't know why or in what sane person's mind health would be like, oh, that's so or right winged, like I can't support you because health is Republican. Like I don't even, it doesn't even make sense in my head like why somebody would like, hey, I can't do that because that's not what I believe in. Like, and like I'm just dumbfounded. And I'm like that just really reinstates my mindset that this is only how these kind of people think. Like, oh, I can't associate with you because you want to be healthy. You're against big pharma. You want to do alternative, natural, um, I don't know, like lifestyles compared to what my doctor, who I've taken 6 shots and boosters and all of this. Like,
And what happened to my body, my choice?
exactly. See, oh my gosh. Don't even get me started.
Yeah, we're in interesting times. I mean what we've seen in the last 6 months, the just how apoplectic these people are about no kings protest. We don't live.
Listen, John and I, my husband and I, we had a No Kings thing in Mason, like where I'm from. Like, bro, America hasn't had a king since 1776. That was the entire point of everything. And like, uh, obviously Trump's not a king. Like, you guys are just showing how low intelligence you are because you know absolutely no history of America. You're just falling into whatever mainstream media, legacy media is feeding you, and you need to wipe your chin and learn how to research for yourself.
Yeah, I've often said it's like when they're like, we're fighting for democracy. What is your version of democracy? Abortion on demand, no fault divorce, gay in vitro and fertilization, adoption, all that kind of stuff. If that's your perverted version of democracy, then maybe we should look into monarchy. Maybe we should tap into that. At least there's some skin in the game there, as opposed to I'm going to get my fix because I have term limits. But it's so silly how they're reacting to these things. And last thing I wanted to ask you, we'll wrap it up here in a second, but how have you felt the last 6 months now that we're in Trump 2? We saw Trump 1, and immediately he takes over, and it's Russia, Russia, Russia. That takes over 2 years. Then it's Ukraine, and impeach him over that. And then it's COVID. And then all of a sudden, 4 years just went by that quickly. So now this time around, the narrative has changed. Twitter and social media outlets are not as censorious as they were just a few
Right.
years ago. There have been some good things, some bad things, some arguable things as far as the Trump administration goes this time around. What are your thoughts so far?
I think there's a lot going on. Well, I know there's a lot going on. I have friends that are behind the scenes and like we'll start from the beginning. Like the Epstein thing. Like, oh, why won't Trump release the Epstein files? Like, bro, do you not know that Biden had those same access to the files for the last 4 years? So what Biden didn't do in 4 years, you're condescending Trump in the last 6 months since he's been involved. There's so much going on behind the scenes. I don't think people realize if we took complete control away, it would only create chaos. And we can't afford any more chaos right now.
I
Um,
think as far as the Epstein stuff goes, my belief on it is it's Al Capone's vault with Geraldo. I think by the time they got there, the pertinent stuff it was destroyed. Uh,
exactly.
it was Trump in whatever, because I think when we say the Epstein files registered trademark, I think that's a red herring in many ways because I don't think you're not talking about like a flight like a guest list at a wedding where you're
Exactly.
signing in. It's like Mr. and Mrs. Mazur over here. It's like, oh, it's not like that. I think, and then they said, well, there are videos, but then there's no video, and I think their presentation of it they could have probably ran it through a PR campaign a little bit better, but um, I, I don't like how they handled it. I don't like how that when I didn't really enjoy with Trump when he was like, "Are we still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?" Because
Right. Yeah.
that's
No.
just bulletin board material in many ways. Um, I just think that my conspiracy theory is that when Kash Patel and when Dan Bongino went in there and started looking at stuff and probably realized how deep the deep state truly is. So when 2 years ago they were like, we got to get to the bottom of this, that there's pedophiles in our or whatever, and then it's like he killed himself. There, we don't really have any questions after that. I think it was Epstein probably did work with intelligence, and he worked with several different intelligence agencies, as did Robert Maxwell, as did a couple of other people who were involved. He had associations with Ehud Barak. He had associations with, well, obviously Les Wexner here, as we know in Ohio. Um, I think there's a lot going in, and I think if you're very conspiracy minded, you can go to town, but then at some point you become conspiracy brained, and then you think everything is a conspiracy, which who knows, it might be. But boy, is that I gotta say, it's a tough way to live because then you don't even know if your cat is a cat anymore. It's like maybe it's a, I don't know, what is that? Maybe is it a raccoon that's posing that had some genetic mix to its DNA, and we're like, then what? What are we doing? Or when do we include something for Occam's razor? And by the way, again, this is not me saying that the Epstein files that we should just stop talking about it. I think there is a there in some way. It's just I think we're getting to a point where you're getting to a dead end, and I don't know how much more we're going to get out of it. And like you said, Courtney, that they've had these files, they've known what's going on, and all of a sudden now the Democrats are putting out saying that Trump's a pedophile and that we're GOP or the party of pedos. I'm going, I don't know. I don't know. Kind of saw what some of the stuff that was going on in the last administration. A lot of the gay sex happening in the Senate chambers and the transgenders on the White
Exactly.
House lawn. It's like if you want to talk about degeneracy, I don't know. I think you guys have a little bit of a leg up there.
I have looked at Cash eye to eye. He's been on my podcast. He donated like I don't know tens of I don't know, like 100 books from like the books that he wrote to my preschool thing that I did at Patriot
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, like he's a good person. Like I've met him, I've sat at the same table with him, he sat beside me, I've had a face-to-face conversation with him. I think there's so much going on behind the scenes. They can't let it all out right now. And I think people are still like, hey, Trump said this, he said he's going to do this. Why hasn't he done this? Like, it's been 6 months almost to the day.
And
Like,
it's been 6 years almost to the day too since the Epstein killed
right.
himself type of thing.
And like, why are you complaining that Trump hasn't done in 6 months what your Biden administration didn't do in 4 years? There's so much going on behind the scenes. Dan Bongino just posted a thing like last week saying that like what he has seen, what he has discovered, what him and the director of the FBI, obviously Cash, has seen, it would change him forever. Like he's shook to the core. Like it can't go on anymore. There is stuff happening behind the scenes. Like it can't be public right now. And I think that's like some people are missing.
Yeah, it, it's good to focus on. I think it's healthy to discuss some if there's a negative, if people aren't the fan of the Iran strikes or the a cozier relationship with Netanyahu or sending more weapons over to Ukraine. I understand that and that needs to be discussed, but A lot of it of talking about the going in and really gutting out the cultural Marxism happening in our major institutions and
Right.
gutting the DEI industry and the fact that the southern border, it's just no one's coming across there. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. You're not only you're not only having deportations that are happening right now, which obviously we would like to see them ramped up a little bit more, but people are not only deporting, but they're self-deporting, and they're also not flooding through the border at this time. So it's good to talk about the positives and negatives. And I think it's not healthy to focus on one or the other. I think it's good to have a little bit of a mix of both, of being a realist in this second Trump administration.
And that's another thing that people don't really want to acknowledge, like how much support that we've had at um like our southern border with Tom Hallman, with somebody that I've had on the podcast many times, uh Sheriff Mack. Like there's people that are at the border that are implementing our actual rules for the United States, for the Constitution, for like your rights, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. But there are so many people that are like, oh, that's not fair. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do this. When I I really just don't understand the mindset of the left at all.
It's weird because I kind of do, and it's pretty easy to when you realize that it's like there's a lot of ethnomasochism that goes on, that especially if they're a white cisgendered person, it's like I am at the very bottom of the totem pole and I am just a horrible person, and please, I apologize for everything that I have done, and my ancestors and the colonizers. I think also another one is the interesting split with Israel and Palestine, is that most Democrats now are very pro Palestine, yet their donors are pro Israel. And that's causing a bigger rift that more people are not talking enough about. That if you're a big time Democrat donor, they're, of course, like a lot of Republican donors are very pro Israel, pro Zion, and their base is not. And that is a major sticking point. That I think played a huge role in the election last year that nobody wanted to talk about. So, anyways, I think Courtney, you're muted there, but well, actually, I was going to wrap it up anyways here on the Check Your Brain podcast. Courtney Allen of the Patriot Strong podcast. I appreciate you joining me for this episode. And again, where can we find all things Courtney Allen, all things Patriot Strong?
I'm so sorry. I lost connection for a minute, so I lost like the last couple minutes that you
Oh, you're
said.
good. I was just filibustering.
Um, you can find Patriot Strong podcast on any place that you stream, iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify. If you want to watch the live videos, I'm live on my page, or on my personal page, Courtney Allen, on Facebook, on the Patriot Strong podcast on Facebook, or on Rumble. X, it's all the same things. But I appreciate you, Tony, for inviting me back on, for talking about all of this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and stay safe down in the Queen City, because I wanted to go back there. I've heard there's a Frisch's Big Boy graveyard. Apparently, they're closing all the Frisch's now, and they're going to
Oh
become
yeah,
Bob's or
yes, yes.
whatever, which sucks because as you can tell in the background, I've got my I'm a big fan of the old Big Boy, but yeah, so I enjoy my trips going when I'm in Cincinnati, but I also acknowledge that I go during the day and have a good time and then go back to the hotel like an old man. So so that's what I do, or stay in an area that's a little bit more heavily patrolled. But yeah, again, Courtney, I appreciate you for coming back on the podcast and look forward to talking to you pretty soon again.
Absolutely, anytime. You guys, thank you so much for my audience that is watching this live. Thank you so much for joining us in this conversation. It really is important to bring to the surface all of these kind of conflicts, or things that have been brushed aside or not focused on because people are afraid to be, like politically correct. They're afraid to be offensive to anybody. There needs to be a change, and I feel like that change can come in a little bit over 3 months. You guys, again, if you are in the Cincinnati city limits, Corey Bowman is running for mayor. Corey Bowman is the little brother of Vice President J.D. Vance. He is a pastor. He owns his own business. He has a family. He just wants to see better for the city that he's raising his children in. So if you are local to me, if you're southwestern Ohio, Cincinnati area, Hamilton County, Corey Bowman for mayor is the only choice to have any success for the Cincinnati area.
There you have it. Thank you, Courtney. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you, the rest of you folks, next week on the Check Your Brain podcast, unless you want to hear from me tomorrow on Patreon at patreon.com/Tony Mazur. Bye, everyone.